All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to be working on the academic skill of highlighting and taking good notes. We're going to go through our highlights and we're going to transfer those highlights into our notes section so that we can leave that textbook page alone. We don't need it anymore because we already pulled out all that key information and organize it nicely in our notes form. And I'm going to help you with every step along the way and showing you how we're going to do that. So to start out right now, you should have your themes chart open and your textbook open. And I should have said this at the beginning, but what's great about this video is you can stop and pause it at any point if you need a moment to get yourself organized, or maybe you missed something and you want to rewind, or you want to pause and see the way that I typed it out. Feel free to do all of that. That's what's great about these videos is you don't have to do it in real time. You can do it in your own time, and everyone's going to get to the same ending point in their own way. So that kind of this video is catered to you as an individual. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'll have it shared for the entire time. Just a refresher on how to get to where we need to go with the textbook. I've already signed in. I've clicked on Social Studies textbook. I've got Machu Picchu and world history in my background here, so I know I'm on the right course. If you need to change it, you can do it up here. I'm looking for 3.1, which was your homework last night. There it is, Mesopotamia, geography of Mesopotamia. And click on that. And I'm always using, for the most part, always going to use the Explore tab. And here we go. Here are my pages. 1 and 3 is what we're going to focus on today. I've also got my themes chart and going back to my textbook. Now, an academic skill that we're going to use this year is, like I said, getting our highlights and transfer them into our notes. Now, it could be hard to flip back and forth every time you need to write something. Some of these words are kind of hard to spell, so it would be really hard to go back and forth. I wonder if there's a way that I can have both screens up at the same time. Well, there is. In order to do that, I'm going to use what's up in my right-hand corner. The middle button says Restore Down, at least it does on mine. So we're going to use those functions up there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my textbook and pull it away from the rest of the tabs. So I've got that. Now it's its own screen, but I want to get it down. So I'm going to do that Restore Down button, not the minimize, the Restore Down. And I'm going to make it a smaller version of itself. That's cool. I'm going to go back to my themes chart. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab it from the rest of the tabs so it's its own window. And it's when I let go, it's going to create its own window. And I'm going to do the same thing. Restore Down up there in the upper right-hand corner. And now I've got it kind of half screen here. And that's going to be really beneficial to us because now I'm going to use my textbook and my themes chart at the same time. And I can always make it bigger or smaller depending on what I want to do. I'm going to do that just so I have a little more room. Cool. So the first thing we're going to do is focus on the physical characteristics side of our geography side. So I'm going to click right there in my first bullet point. It should already be up there for you. And now I'm going to go through my textbook and look for those highlights that I did last night. So I'm on page 1 and I'm going to scroll down. Oh, the Tigris and Euphrates River. There's my first one. So I'm going to transfer those highlights over to my themes chart. Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Cool. Done. To do another bullet point note, at the end of the first line, I'm going to hit enter, and a new bullet point is automatically going to be in there. It's going to be created, is what I should have said. So we didn't do page 2. Let's move on to page 3. And again, we're looking for those geographic features that we highlighted last night and we're transferring them over to our notes. Now, I did mine in yellow. So I'm going to go through this and transfer everything that I highlighted in yellow into our themes note. And I'm going to do this in a way that kind of categorizes these geographic features. You'll notice the first bullet point was all about rivers. So I lumped those two together rather than have two separate bullet point notes. So I want to keep my notes really concise and consistent and short and to the point. So the first geographic feature that I have on page 3 is that Fertile Crescent. And this is, I'm going to do some explaining here because that's not an obvious term. That's something new to a lot of people. What is the Fertile Crescent? Well, that was a large plain of high quality soil. That high quality meaning fertile, which is why it's called the Fertile Crescent. So it's this big crescent shaped plain that had really great fertile soil. We know how important fertile soil is. Cool. So Fertile Crescent's done. I'm going to hit enter again, give it a new bullet point. Next, I'm going to talk about the Mediterranean Sea and the Gulf and the Persian Gulf. And those are big bodies of water. So I'm going to lump those together in the same bullet point. Mediterranean and Persian Gulf. Remember, you can pause this at any time if you need to slow down or anything, or you need to get caught up. Now, I do have some extra stuff highlighted in pink on my page. We're going to get to that next. Let's just focus on the geographic features. So next, I've got the mountains, Taurus, and Zagros mountains. And I highlighted foothills. And since those are related to mountains, I'm going to do comma and do foothills. I spelled mountains wrong. Boom. Cool. Great. Moving on. Okay, I got a plateau. A lot of it was high and flat in Mesopotamia. So I hit enter again and hit say plateau. And what else do I have down here? Silt, that kind of goes along with river. So I'm going to skip that. Flat and even, we're talking about that's the plateau. The last thing I want to talk about is the climate. Climate is definitely a geographic feature, even though it may be hard to actually touch it. So I am going to say climate. I'm going to do my colon to explain what the climate was like, and I actually have that highlighted, that it was hot and dry and there was lots of droughts. So I'm going to phrase that in as little words as possible. So I'm going to say hot/dry, comma, droughts were donuts, not donuts, droughts were common. And those are all my geographic features. And this is what you should have highlighted last night. If you missed something, that's fine. There's certainly more you could put down there, but for my notes, this is how I'm going to organize it. And those are the ones I'm going to make note of. Okay. Again, if you need to pause and get this stuff down, please do, but I'm going to move on now to the next section of geography, which are the effects on society. So here's where you're really going to analyze. What effects these geographic features had. How did they impact the people of the society, or really the society as a whole? And I have done that in my notes here. Sorry, in my tech book, I highlighted how the rivers flooded and brought rich soil to the valley. That's a big impact. I talked about down here that there's very fertile land. So again, fertile land being a consistent theme. And then lastly, down here, I highlighted how the Mesopotamians had to control the river and capture some of its water through this idea of irrigation. Irrigation is moving water from one place to the next, really having control of that water. We're going to be talking a lot about irrigation here as one of the innovations of Mesopotamia. So again, I want to kind of break down these physical characteristics, these physical features, and talk about what effects that they had. Now, I'm just coming up with these notes from years past. So what I would like you to do is just follow along and make sure that you jot all of this stuff down in the appropriate sections. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is that the rivers flooded and brought fertile soil. And we'll go through this a little quick. So again, pause it whenever you need to. So the rivers flooded and brought fertile soil. We know how important fertile soil is to our society. So thanks to the rivers, that was made possible. I'm going to hit enter and get a new bullet point, but I want to do a sub point. In order to do that, I'm going to hit the tab button. The tab button is to the left of the queue, and it pushes my pushes my bullet point over to a sub note, because I want to create a note that's related to the rivers and flooding and fertile soil. And that's this idea of irrigation systems. They were developed to bring water to crops. And we're going to talk more about that. I'm going to hit enter again. Now, it automatically does a subnote. I don't want that. I want to have a main bullet point note. In order to go back to a main bullet point note, I'm going to hit shift, hold on to it, and hit that tab button again. And that's going to bounce my bullet point back to the main bullet points. So again, tab pops it in, shift tab brings it back. Cool. Almost done here. Something that isn't really in the text, but I know, because I've taught this class before, is those big bodies of water, the effect that the Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf are going to have is they're going to allow the Mesopotamians to trade with other civilizations. It's going to allow them to travel across the sea and interact with other civilizations and trade things that they don't necessarily have. So trading overseas to other civilizations. Trading overseas to other civilizations. That's an effect that the large bodies of water had. Moving on. Last one, the mountains served, why can't I spell mountains today? Served as a natural border. They served as a natural border. So it's hard for these other civilizations to cross the borders and attack the Mesopotamians. So they had these mountain ranges that really kept them well protected. And we're going to talk about that more in depth, is how these geographic features really helped protect these civilizations. So mountains being really hard to cross. So that was a good thing for protection. And that is all I have for today. So again, make sure that you have all of these notes. I just maximized it so that you can get a clear view. If you need to pause it and jot this stuff down, go for it. But by the end of today, you should have both of those columns filled out: physical characteristics and effects on society. And that's all I got for you guys today. Have a wonderful day. See you later.